Hello and welcome to episode 157 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That is right, and we got some more draft we want to talk about. The set's been out for just a little bit, and hey, it's a good time to just kind of revisit what's happening in draft. Maybe our initial ideas maybe weren't perfect. But anyway, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So, Jeff, what's on tap?
Super excited for this. This is another DDC, Dia du Ciel, which is a brewery out of Montreal. We talked about it a few episodes ago.
Hmm.
It's my favorite brewery. And this year we have Voyageur des Plumes,
Hmm.
which is a Russe Britannique, or for you English folks out there, it's a British amber.
Yeah.
Although if you read the back of the can, like the description, it actually says extra special bitter, which is why when I told you to grab the extra special bitter, that's what I was thinking of, not
Yeah.
what it says on the front of the can.
Well, yeah, I understand. I was assuming, and ESB is basically a British amber, so this is just
Yeah,
helping us
it's
out.
however you wanna whatever you wanna call it. I think of them as slightly different, but I guess it like
I think they are technically very
yeah.
different, but the combination of like French words and then British things is also confusing. So might as well just
Right.
help us out, us American, or well, American or English speaking folks. Um,
Yeah. But I love ESPs and they are a style that people don't often make.
mhm.
So when I saw one that was made by PDC, I just had to grab it, and so I'm excited to give this one a shot.
Hell yeah. Let's crack it up, and it's 5.2%, and I'm ready. I'm ready for it. All right, we have some magic news. Not too much stuff. There has been some Twitter drama, but if you want to check that out, go look on Twitter. There's obviously a bunch of things. But the most important thing is that in 2 weeks, Modern Horizons 3 spoilers actually start. We talked about leaks last week, but the actual spoilers start on May 21st. That is like 2 weeks away. Holy crap.
Crazy.
Cannot believe it. Man, we just moved through stuff so quickly. Obviously, this is like a supplementary product. We will be talking a little bit more about it in the coming weeks just because it's actually coming to Arena, where usually all the other Modern Horizons cards haven't really. We've gotten like random like injections of them, but a full Modern Horizon 3 release on Arena is actually a pretty big deal. So we will be talking about it moving forward and its impact on Timeless specifically. But yeah, anyway, look forward to that in a couple weeks.
Yeah. And just talking about drafts today, I assume that I'll do a couple of drafts of that set too, now
Yeah,
that I actually care about acquiring the cards.
yeah, because
Um,
of Timeless. Thank the Lord.
yeah.
Yeah. So we will get into that, end of May into June. But today we are still talking about Outlaws of Thunder Junction draft, baby. I'm kind of excited to see how we're feeling with the format now that we've settled into it a bit. Some more archetypes have like surfaced and felt more real. We had a pro tour, all of those things. We have been touching it over the last few weeks, but it's always nice to come back and check out some of the stats on 17 lands as well as our own ideas on the draft format as we've been playing the last few weeks. So with that, Jeff, what how do you feel and what's been going on with you?
I've been really enjoying this format.
Okay.
Although I will say I had a draft on the train this morning, I think. I drafted awesome green black deck. And I'm 0-2 right now because I sat there and lost to one stupid alchemy card. Then the next game I lost to a different stupid alchemy card.
Are you
So I
playing
was
the alchemy version of
I guess I clicked the wrong one. And so I was just
rookie
like,
mistake, buddy?
but I'm so excited. Like I was so excited by the deck that I drafted, and then I was just like, wait, what is this card in my pack? I've never seen this card before. How have I missed it? And then I was like, oh no, what have we done? But I decided to go through with it, and then I just lost to dumb alchemy cards in both games. And I'm like, should I finish this? I should finish this, right? I don't want to just
You
throw
should
the
just
gems
get your
away.
third loss and then just take the
I
L.
know, but so that actually like put a halt in my drafting. So I was like, I have to finish that one first. I sure I should. I don't have to, but they got me with that one. They got me.
I actually had I was streaming when it flipped over. So if you don't know, after a few, it's like usually like 3 weeks to like a month after the set comes out. I guess it's technically no, I guess it was a full month. Anyway, um, they inject us with like 30 new alchemy cards. We used to care a lot more about them on the podcast, but um, alchemy has become a format that we've been much less interested in. Uh, if you want to talk to us about it, you should just find our Discord. We can explain to you why we've changed our minds on that. But anyway, when that happens, they decide that they're going to help you get the alchemy cards by giving you an opportunity to draft them alongside the rest of the set, which I think is a good idea if you want the alchemy cards. Getting them through draft is like the best way to get cards, but things like this happen every single time. Every single time there are new like alchemy cards, people accidentally queue into the wrong draft format.
And I
So,
acknowledge that it's my fault, but
mhm.
in my defense, I don't think I've ever drafted a set this deep into the set's release so as to actually have this happen, at least not for a very long time. And so I wasn't on my toes on this one.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh yeah, there's an update. That's kind of weird. And
yeah.
then I'm like, anyways,
Because
jump into the draft.
so the biggest thing is that the artwork changes for the actual draft.
I know, but
Yeah,
yeah. I
and
thought
the
that
thing
was
is,
odd too.
it
I
will
even like
say
noted, I even clocked that the
because
it was a different art.
it'll show it and it'll like it says Premier Outlaws of Thunder Junction draft best or not doesn't say best of one, but
Yeah,
draft, and at the very end it says alchemy, and you can miss that very easily if you don't read the whole thing.
for sure.
Um, so anyway, I was
Nice.
on stream and I stopped and was like, big PSA, don't
Yeah.
fuck this up. I should have
I
like
wish I was watching that
I
stream.
should have clipped a video to post it on our Discord just so everyone knew because it's rough. I'm sorry that you ran into that, pal. That's a bummer.
But anyway, but on my deck plays zero alchemy cards and would be like a nuts green black deck in the
Mm.
alchemy free world. But I
Lo and
goofed.
behold,
I goofed.
you big old goof.
But I guess, the upside there, or the takeaway is that I have really been enjoying this draft format. I've drafted
Hmm.
it more than I have any set in recent memory. Um, Probably you'd have to go back to All Will Be One,
Okay.
I think, for anything that even comes close. And I think I've probably drafted this, if not similar, more than I drafted that set. So um,
Yeah. I mean, like
uh,
we loved all be one, so that was
yeah.
just a good time for us. But yeah, and I mean, I draft most every set
Yeah, you're
to
always deep
completion.
into the draft.
Yeah.
So
So I'm familiar with the alchemy blunder, but um, how are you feeling differently about the draft format? Does it feel like it's changed since the inception? Is green still king? Are all the colors still solidified in the same place we originally thought? Where the absent colors are the best, and you want to stay away from is it no matter what?
I think we're still there. Um, the thing I'll say is like we talked about blue being the worst color
Mhm,
last time. I'm still there, but a lot of people seem to be on red being the worst color.
mhm,
So we talked about like red second worst, blue worst, and I think some other people have that flipped. Um,
yeah,
but like Celestia is still the deck you want to be,
totally.
and generally green is where you want to be still too. Honestly, I think the biggest thing um, that leveled up for me is we did talk about, you'd rather be first blue drafter over the third green drafter.
Hmm.
I'm not 100% sure that's true, actually.
Really?
I the way I've pushed my game to be like to get better at this format is I realized that working I was staying too open. And so I had some drafts where I was like, just take green cards because I was in this mode of like assuming I'll just never realistically be green because too many people would be fighting for it.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Just start taking them and see if you get there. And once I did that, I ended up in green a lot more often,
Hmm.
and I started doing better and progressing better. So I think green is deep enough. Like maybe you don't prefer to be the third green versus the first blue, like we said, but I think you're not that unhappy being the third green drafter, actually. I think you're still picking up like a couple of Cactarantula type cards or like
Your throw from the
some giant
saddles.
beavers
Hmm.
and you if you're because you in the early pack you'll get the thrower from the saddle, you'll get a nice green
Snakeskin veil.
uncommon.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been drafting green a lot more just after making that conscious effort of like, see what happens if you take green cards, because the assumption was always, oh, I'll take this really good blue card because green's gonna be people are gonna fight over it.
Yeah.
And you can still scrap together a really good green deck. Um, and I don't know, the people I drafted with don't seem to respect the Airings, the 3/1
The
white.
trained Erics.
Yeah, I get more of those than anyone should realistically ever get in a draft. I
Hmm.
think I had five one time,
Holy shit.
and like
That's
people
like
aren't
the
taking them, and I'm like,
it's
I think this might be the best common in the set.
it's on 17 lands data, it's like the second best white common over
Yeah,
take up the shield, but take up the shield is just your uh think of it kind of as like your removal in white because you're using it as a combat trick to kill one of their creatures, but primarily to get rid of one of their cards in their hand.
yeah,
Um,
and this is a classic example of 17 lands not accounting for pick order,
mhm,
because you can get take up the shield in the middle of the pack.
mhm.
Um,
And you only need
one,
one or two, like,
yeah,
but
I
no
would
more than
never play
that.
more than two.
Yeah, never play more
I
than two.
usually don't play two, even if I have them, but I do play one. But I'll play every fucking trained Airings I get
I
because
mean,
it's
they go
just
really
so
well together.
good. It's so good. Um, I honestly like I am totally happy just going turn two trained Airings, turn three Grizzly, and
Hmm.
like saddle up and attack, scry one. Yeah, that's just like the common into common draw that I want. I probably overrate the Grizzly a little bit, but I like it.
It's so funny because so we're talking about Drover Grizzly, which is the 3 mana 4/2 that gives your team trample if it's saddled.
Yes.
That card ends up it was much lower on my list just because trading with two power creatures was so annoying to me. But I've had too many games against big wide green decks where like the board gets a little too muddy and that it all revolves around like killing their Drover Grizzly and then them reanimating it and then playing it again and then being able to attack and give all their team trample because I can chump everything. I just can't deal with the trample, and so
Yeah.
Drover Grizzly is the reason I lose the game.
Yeah, this is a format that's about big creatures.
Mhm.
And so I think that's the way you want to think about it. Games are decided by the raw size of your
Mhm.
creatures a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So Grizzly giving people trample is huge in the late game, like you said. It means you shouldn't be trading it off
Mhm. For low stuff.
early. Like trade it off for giant beaver. Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. But don't trade it off for even your opponent's trained Airings or whatever. Like that's
Yeah,
not good
don't
enough.
definitely not the trained Airings, but like yeah, your opponent's other big green creatures, giant beaver, Spinewoods Paladin,
Oh yeah, you
anything,
trade it with a paladin, you're very
any day,
happy.
any
Yeah.
day. Um, but it's
But
another
generally
reason.
value it pretty highly because giving like Cactarantulas or the real thing is giving the elemental tokens trample
Yes,
because those things are big.
I was literally just going to talk about Dance of the Tumbleweeds, which is
Mm.
just phenomenal. And the thing about Dance of the Tumbleweeds is that like you die because your opponent top decks it and makes a fucking 11/11, and you have spent all the rest of the game removing all their actual threats, quote unquote. You know, it's like you're getting rid of their bomb rares. Eventually, you have to get rid of their Cactarantula, and then by the time they play Dance of the Tumbleweeds, make an 11/11, you're like, okay, I don't know. I guess now I'm dealing with this thing. How do I even
Yeah.
I like I have to try to block this. This sucks. So,
Like card's amazing. It's like a split card of late game powerhouse or like early game draw fixer
mhm.
or like in splash enabler. Like it just does everything
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah,
Um,
the thing is that's funny is like, obviously early you get to just ramp, but it helps you ramp into your other Dance of the Tumbleweeds, so you don't have to feel bad about them later. And like
yeah.
we are literally just saying that raw stats are good. This card, that's all it does, is like raw stats.
I love going to get the bounce land with it. Like I've had a few games where you cast it and you bounce your forest back to your hand, you replay the forest, and then you're holding up Snakeskin Veil or something. It's just like what a beating.
So nice. It also brings
Bounce
the
bounce
card.
land is good, but don't play it if you have multiple colors, like more than two.
Yeah, totally, for sure. But the other thing, the Dance of the Tumbleweeds just brings the card into the land, comes into play untapped, which is
I
like,
know. I always expect that it still gets me sometimes where I'm thinking that it will be into play tapped because of years of
mhm,
being trained by WotC that cards like this put the land into play tapped. And then I have to remember, oh no, I can do it all because this
mhm.
is going to come into play
Yeah,
untapped.
you're literally talking about just like bouncing your forest. You could just go get a forest and hold up Snakeskin Veil with this card.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's nice.
Like that's another reason why Snakeskin Veil. I know you don't agree with me on this, but you can play three copies of Snakeskin Veil. You can play three.
I don't even play two
The
usually.
the the pros. Who was it? Oh shit, was it Alexander Hayne? No, um, it was a
At the Pro
Canadian.
Tour,
Yeah, yeah, at the Pro
yeah, it
Tour.
was Alexander Hayne.
It was
Yeah,
Alexander Hayne. He had three.
yeah,
And that's how he was winning all of his games. It was like big green creatures, hold up Snakeskin Veil. I don't need removal. My creature's the best,
yeah.
And that is exactly the kind of Magic I want to play. I love Snakeskin Veil so much.
I hate having it in my hand with no creatures though. Like,
I mean, yeah, but it also means like you could have a opening hand with three lands, two Snakeskin Veils, and one Trained Airings, and you're like, this game's gonna be great.
that's true. Change
So,
one of those snakeskin veils to a throw from the saddle, and I'm just like, how does my opponent ever win?
I mean, like for sure, because that's just like all upside.
But that's the other
Um,
thing I think Trained Eric's is so good is because it's so good with throw from the saddle in
mhm.
particular, which is,
Which
you
is
know,
the best common
best common in
statistically.
the set. Then
Yeah.
it's thrown at the saddle. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I've been drafting a ton of green white. I'm looking at my untapped land or my untapped.gg. Yeah, I'm looking at all my untapped lands in this game that I'm playing right now. Um,
Are you queuing up? Are you
just
playing
the
right now? Are you playing Magic while we're doing the
no, definitely
podcast?
not. Yeah, I have four trained Erics in my pool so far.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I've played a whole bunch of different color pairs, right?
Hmm.
But they're all in the single digits for wins. Like red white is my third highest. It's 9 and 6. My most played deck color is Naya,
Hmm.
and I'm 31 and 18 with Naya. So I play Naya like three times as often as I play my next like most. And my next highest is green white. So and my Naya decks are almost exclusively green white splash red. So it's like I play green white. It looks like more than half the time by like a
Interesting.
decent margin.
I feel like I haven't like I'm also looking at my untapped data and I have been playing it a lot, but have been trying a bunch of things. And when I say trying a bunch of different things, I mainly mean if Deep Muck Desperado passes my sight, I have to pick it, and then I just start playing mill again.
I got it
Um,
early once. I never
I
see that card. I got it early once and I went off with it and it was great. But
I was so mad the other day because I had I've had a couple drafts where I'm like, I have three Deep Muck Desperados, and it happens often enough because I do pick it high enough that I want to do this.
I just
But
never see it. I would pick it like first and take a
I will absolutely pick it first. And like
take a
this,
floater on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like one of the decks I had was like three Deep Muck Desperados and basically every spring splasher I saw, which is the like 2 mana 2/1 frog that deal
Oh
like
yeah,
makes
I love Spring Splash. Yeah.
it deals a crime. No, it commits a crime every turn.
Yeah.
um, but the deck ended up being absolutely horrendous, and it just did not perform the way I was hoping. But it just, yeah, I just wanted it so badly. Um, but as far
I'm
as
always tempted to take Archive Trap when I see it early and be like,
you
"Are we
gotta,
doing it?" If I see one Desperado, or like all I'm looking for at that point is the Snapcaster card whose name I can never remember,
Slick Shot,
but
Lockpicker.
Slickshot Lockpicker. Yeah, if I get an early Archive Trap and then I see Slickshot Lockpicker, that's my deck.
That's the
Like
deck.
that's it. I only need to cast this card twice to beat you.
Yeah,
Um,
it's amazing. And like that's really what I want. I think what I need to do is like I'm putting deep muck in literally anything. And so when you were talking earlier about how people are saying like red is better than blue or vice versa, I've been playing
yeah,
so much more blue than red. I think I do better with red, so maybe it is considered the best color, but specifically because of Deep Muck Desperado, I've been playing a lot of blue. Um, and because I will just jam it into whatever I can. The most recent deck I had with it was just I literally had just one of them, but the rest of the deck was like no one was playing white blue. I got like Jace Reawakened. I also got like two of the Canyon Crabs. I had Fractured Identity as well
oh, I
as
mean that card is fucking
like
ridiculous.
that card is a freaking beating. I got two Detention Spheres. It was like what is happening? And I'm wheeling a lot of these things because people just are not playing white blue. I'm like, man, I don't
What
know.
the hell is up with Fractured Identity, man? That card reminds me of Hostage Taker from back in the day, but like
Hmm.
on crack. It's like
Yeah,
I definitely you just get the thing right away. You don't even have to go through the whole trouble of
but
like there's
because
no
it
window for as the opponent to do anything about this.
so it is a commander card, right? So this is like playing commander cards
That
in
explains why I've never heard of it before. My opponent cast it. I was like, what the hell is this?
yeah.
Like, so
So
they're gonna exile my best thing and then they get a copy of it?
you know what's
What
so
the
funny
fuck?
is that like I've known about Fractured Identity for a long time because like this card, famously the combo in Commander is like uh, play. I mean, it's not a good combo, but it's a funny one where you play Phage the Untouchable and then you Fractured Identity your Phage the Untouchable, give your opponents phages and they all lose.
I love
Um,
that. I
so
can accept that.
that is like a janky commander combo. So I knew this card from that, and so in my mind it was like this is kind of like a combo-y card to kill the
Like
table.
weird jank combo
Yeah,
card.
and so when I opened it in my pre-release packs, I didn't even bat an eye. I was like, okay, this card's I can't play this. Like
Whoa,
I didn't literally didn't even read it again. You know what I mean? Like it
it's like one
was
of the best cards in the set.
I know, and I literally just passed over it, being like, "Oh, whatever. I'm gonna play Naya instead." Thinking back, I was like, "Damn, I really should have played fucking Azorius. I don't know why I didn't do this at all." Um, but it's literally just sometimes you see cards from different formats, and you're like, "I don't think this is gonna work out in this one. Let's not even think about it." Um, so anyway, that's my warning to you all. Please just read your cards again. Don't be like Zach,
Right.
who never reads any of his cards.
But yeah, so basically I've been playing a lot of green white. Um,
Hmm.
it's worked out really well for me. I have a pretty solid win rate in this format, although I've stalled out a little bit recently, losing a few drafts in a row with what I thought were really good green decks. So
Hmm.
maybe I'm at a point where I have to reconsider, like maybe I'm not getting as strong a green deck as I think I am at this point, and I have to maybe I'm overvaluing green because looking at these numbers, it is a little surprising, like just how often I'm in green white
Hmm.
probably means I'm overvaluing some of these cards a little bit.
Probably.
Um, but it's so hard when you've built up like that success with these cards. They've never let you down until now. And now you're like,
Hmm.
hmm, yeah.
Yeah,
Is this 3/3 with Defender as good as I think it is?
I
Oh
love that
no.
card. You know, and
Dude,
that.
That card is so much better than like that card exists in almost every set. This is the
Mm.
first time I don't hate it. Normally I never take that card.
I
The
liked
3/3 with Defender that has
that
some way of taking away
attacking.
Defender. That's yeah.
There was a core set where I liked it. I think it was the same. It was almost the
Yeah.
same exact card. But there was an
Yeah.
easy way to put counters on it or something so that it could attack by itself.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
this set does the same type of thing where, like, if you have just a random mercenary around, you're like, now we're attacking. Um,
Exactly. Or, Drover Grizzly, baby.
that's
You just
true.
go that thing into Drover Grizzly and you're like, getcha.
I mean, Drover Grizzly is just great. Um, this is so funny because, like, I was literally just talking about how I kind of think of blue being better than red, you know, slightly, or I just end up playing more blue. But I've had more success with like red white. Like, I haven't actually looking at my stats, like, my green decks have just not really been getting there. And like my white, red, white, black decks, those are the ones that are doing well. And it just seems strange to me because I am so like I haven't really looked at this. I tend not to look at my stats just in general because, well, sometimes it just doesn't make you feel super great. But sometimes it's also
It's soul crushing.
it's a little soul crushing, but at the same time it's also good to look at them to be like, wait a second. I have been more successful with these types of things. Maybe I should reevaluate some stuff. And
Yeah.
times when I've just decided to go into the open lane of like, well, there's a ton of fucking red. These cunning coyotes are going like so late. And things like
I have a
that,
soft spot for the Coyote.
right? And some of those things you're just like, how are these still around? Like I don't know why I'm able to get some of this stuff. Eartha Joe Eartha Joe is so much more interesting than I thought. So that's like the Boros uncommon legendary, which is like a 4 mana 2/4 that makes a mercenary. But then all your mercenaries or all creatures that have activated abilities that target creatures or players double.
Hmm.
That card's awesome. Being able to Eartha Joe with Sterling Keykeeper is like that's
Oof,
what I want to just
that's
be
nice.
tapping down 4 per turn cycle. If I or I guess like you can tap down 2 on their turn, tap down 2 more on your turn,
Yeah,
attack with
crazy.
everything. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's just one Sterling Keykeeper. Imagine having 2. Then you're tapped at 8. You're tapping down 8 stuff. That's that's great. Uh, though you do have to have enough power to kill your opponent, which this deck doesn't always have enough power because you just have a bunch of 1/1s. But you know,
Yeah.
one
I
ones.
played against a black-white deck that was splashing red for
Mhm,
Earth of Joe, and it was really nice in that deck. Like um they had the treasure maker, which was
mm,
like, all right, you're making two treasures.
mhm.
And
That's
the
nice.
blood hustler
Oh
can
yeah.
like double ping you is a lot scarier than single ping. Like double drain you is a lot
Hmm.
scarier than single drain you. So,
For
and they had
sure.
all these fucking mana from the treasures. So
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I really wish I could kill that Eartha Joe. I wish I would draw one of the 7 removal spells in my deck while I sit here losing to this fucking drip. But I was also like, that's kind of cool. I haven't seen this before. So,
That is pretty cool. I like that a lot. I have not seen that. Um, but so sweet.
yeah,
Um, I do want to quickly say, we kind of just dove right into this, but this format's awesome, right?
I love it. I've
Like this,
seen really mixed reviews online, like in you know,
yeah.
the ethos, the
Hmm.
Twitter sphere or the Reddit or whatever. There's a lot of complaints about bombs. What I'll say on that is like, listen, I have played a lot of games. I have a pretty good win rate. So not to say variance isn't a thing, but variance isn't as much of a thing as you think it is.
Hmm.
It's always true. Like people complain about variance cross Magic. It's history. Like when you look at, Pro Tour drafts and sealed events, it's the same people always doing well. So it's like,
Hmm.
okay, how much variance is there really? Um, but the other thing is, I think the main point I really want to drive home is yes, there are more uncommons. There are more rares. There are more whatever mythic rares
Powerful
because they
cards,
come
yeah.
from extra sheets or whatever.
Hmm.
The power level is high. People have more bombs than you're used to. That's how Magic is going to be for
Hmm.
the foreseeable future. This
Yeah.
is a decision that they've made. We know Wizards design sets years in advance. So even if everyone agrees with you and comes out and says, Wizards, we hate this, the next few sets at least are going to be like this. So instead of just complaining that there's more rares, see if you can enjoy it and see what you can do to change maybe the way you're playing. Because especially in the lower tiers, when I was climbing the ranked ladders, people blow removal on like my 3/3 with Defender to get in 4 or 5 damage, right?
Hmm.
And in a lot of limited formats, that's totally worth it. But the thing is, you know your opponent has bombs. So don't like shoot the sheriff my random 3/3 to get in a bunch of damage and then complain when my bomb that dies to shoot the sheriff takes over the game.
Hmm.
Just don't do that. Just don't like you have to spend your removal really wisely in a format that's so bomb heavy.
Hmm.
So you have to really change how you normally weigh the decision of is a removal spell worth the 4 or 5 damage here? Most limited formats it is. In this one, with like you're talking about Spinewoods Paladins, you're
Hmm.
talking about like there are really great ways of stabilizing, and you're gonna wish you had that removal spell. You're gonna wish your opponent had 4 more life and you had a removal spell in hand a lot
Hmm.
of the time. So instead of just complaining that your opponent won the game with some bomb, think about if there was anything you could have done to put yourself in a position to beat that bomb. Sometimes the answer is no, like that's just magic. But a lot of times the answer is actually yes, like I didn't have to throw away my reach creature or trade off my reach creature and then lose to this 5/3 flying hexproof.
Hmm.
I do hate that card, by the way, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
Um, like I've lose games to that card and I'm like, oh, it's so dumb. And then I'm like, oh wait, I traded off my 3/3 reach earlier in the game. I know my opponent's playing blue for a reason. Like
Hmm.
they have good cards in their blue deck, probably bombs, otherwise they're not blue. Like you end up in blue because you see good uncommons and good rares. So, or if you're Zach, Deep Muck Desperado. So, but again, another guy. Make sure you kill the Deep Muck.
Hmm.
Don't just sit there and lose to mill when you wasted a removal spell on a card that's not what the game is about.
Yeah, on a
Is
Raven.
basically the takeaway. Like,
Literally happens
yeah,
all the time. I'm playing like blue black mill, but my
people
opponent.
over they love that fucking Raven, and I'm like, okay, you have a Raven, it's fine.
I mean, I love the Raven
If you get
too.
two, I'll start to be
Yeah,
worried. But
I think the Raven is good, and I think it's worth playing. But like knowing what is knowing what the game is about is something
yeah,
that has to be asked all the time. And this is one of our favorite things to talk about with like rogues, which is one of our favorite decks, which is, if you know that the game is about mill, but your opponent doesn't, you have an advantage. And so if you build your deck as a mill deck and your opponent starts killing the non-mill creatures, you don't care, but they don't know that yet. They just think,
right.
oh, this Raven kills me all the time. Deep Muck Desperado's a stupid 2/4. And you're like, actually, my entire deck just wants to mill you, so
I
thank
almost
you.
always bias towards killing Deep Mech Desperate. I've lost
You
enough
should.
games to it where I'm like, if this card's in their deck, this is what they're doing, and I need to kill that.
Yeah, I think most of the time, if somebody plays like a Desperate Bloodseeker, which is like the 2 mana 2/2 with lifelink that mills for 2, and points it at your
And they
opponent,
target you. Yeah,
you
yeah,
should just kind of know, oh, I think they're going to try to mill me this game. Um,
yeah.
because most of the
Sometimes they
time,
can hide it though, because like they
mhm,
have a Raven. You're like, were they just trying to get the Raven trigger?
yeah, you're just like not really sure.
Mhm.
But just keep an eye out for that. But I skipped a little past it, but I wanted to reiterate that I think that's a really important point of like looking at how your games are going. If you're getting really frustrated with what's happening in your Magic games, you have a lot more control over everything than you think. A
Yeah,
lot of the times it's literally just like I should have mulliganed that hand and that was the death of me. Like I just should
right.
not have kept that. Or the first hand I had was actually a lot better than I thought. The second and third one that I mulliganed to 5 on, I just didn't need to. And the hand was a little slower than I wanted for 7, but I had all my colors. Why would I get rid of that? Those decisions are really important, and that's all Magic. Like that's still playing Magic, and you're learning how to play Magic. Mulliganing is you've already started the game by your mulligan decision is like the first one you have to make. So
Yeah.
it's it's not, you're just going to be frustrated if you are complaining about it. But if you try to work on it and try to get a little bit better, maybe you have more control than you think, and that could make you have a better
Yeah.
time.
And you can only control what you can. And maybe
Hmm.
you do this exercise and you do conclude the format just has too many cards. There's
Hmm.
nothing you can do about them, and I don't enjoy it. That's fine too,
Yeah.
but like I think you'll find yourself in a spot where you're not complaining about that.
Hmm.
You're just acknowledging that that's the case and it's not how you want to spend your time. That's totally cool.
Absolutely.
Other thing I'll add is sometimes you can trace the issue back to the draft or deck
Hmm.
building. I think this format in particular, the cards I thought were good at the very start, when I first started drafting, this has changed like the most of most sets that I've drafted, where
Hmm.
like I have a lot of respect for Tumbleweed Rising now. I did not
Yeah,
respect that card when I
I did
started playing.
not.
Um, like I think the Raven I actually thought was pretty high, original like
Hmm.
great black common when I started, and now I think the Raven is like okay, it's fine. Like you said, it's worth playing. I agree it's worth playing. It's one of those cards I never have in my deck because other people
Hmm.
value it too highly relative to me. Um, but I think just because the Grixis colors are weak, it ends up being just whatever because
If you're doing
that's the deck
crime-ish.
it fits into.
Hmm.
Um, but like for example, I saw a thing, I think it was on Reddit, of an opponent being like, "Well, just fuck me, I guess," or like, "So unlucky," and they posted a screenshot that their hand was three shoot the sheriffs, and their opponent's board was like six outlaws, like
Hmm.
various outlaw creatures, and I was like, I would never put three shoot the sheriffs in my deck, never.
No.
And I at the start of the format, I'd be like, this card's really good. I understand it has a weakness that there's a certain section of the metagame that it won't hit, but
Hmm.
it's still efficient enough probably to be worth playing. Shoot the Sheriff is not a super high pick for me. It's not a high
Mm-mm.
pick.
No, you
Like,
need like one, but like,
so many of the good creatures are outlaws.
mhm.
Like,
Like obviously some of the best green ones aren't, but a
yeah,
lot of the other ones are. And it
yeah,
it will always bite you in the butt, which is with the specific one you want. Also, the other thing is like the best black common is the 4 mana exile spell, Consuming
consuming
Ashes,
ashes. Yeah,
because it exiles. Like it's always super relevant. One of the best decks is Golgari. We've talked about how there are so many different like raise dead effects or reanimate effects in this format, and having cards in your graveyard is important. Milling yourself is actually important in this format.
yeah.
Exiling the important creature is huge. The amount of times I'm holding back for more in my hand and somebody like consuming ashes my creature, and I'm like, fuck.
Oh, had to be
I
that one.
I was like anything else, shoot the sheriff or like the other uncommon that like kills your creature and makes a mercenary. Like anything would be better than consuming ashes. And that's one of the reasons why it's so much better. If this didn't
But
exile, obviously it'd be a lot worse.
and that's the thing. Like, shoot the sheriff is only good, quote unquote, against
Hmm.
green white, and green white has two really awesome ways to beat it that they just
Yeah,
play.
all the
So
time.
it's like that are high picks in green white,
Yeah.
right? Like
And the
Snakeskin
cards,
Veil and Take Up the Shield.
yes, those are the ones we're talking about.
And so Shoot the Sheriff's just not that good. It
Hmm.
looks like a card that's really good in this format. It's fine. I'm not saying you don't play it, but don't pick it highly. Pick it in kind of the middle of
Hmm.
the pack-ish,
And take
late,
consuming ashes over it. Like honestly,
the way earlier. It's not even close. Consuming
this is
Ashes is like an early pick, and Shoot the
just
Sheriff is a mid to late pick.
yeah. Just think about what we're saying right now in in the idea that like, hey, this is a bomb heavy format and everything. Like we're talking about so many common cards that are super impactful that lose or that like define the game so much. You just need to know which commons are the ones that are really important.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that like obviously bombs are a big deal and they like change the course of the game, but I don't think that this is the death of common cards, which is what a lot of people are saying about play boosters, that like commons don't matter anymore, and that's what limited was all about, was common cards. Like, no, these commons are really important and they're still really strong and good. And a lot of these commons are better than the other cards.
Yeah,
So,
the commons matter a lot in this set. It's just that
yeah.
the rares are also plentiful and powerful.
Yeah, and they're everywhere. But, you know, this is the kind of thing that we want with our uncommons is like powerful cards in certain situations where like the common card it costs more, but it does everything, as opposed
Yeah,
to the cheaper uncommon that has a very specific target. And
yeah,
that's what you want with your uncommons, and that's why we're getting more uncommons, and we're raising the power level of all the commons. Honestly, play boosters, amazing. I'm
yeah.
so on board with this.
This set has been really enjoyable.
Hmm.
The only thing I want to add on to Consuming Ashes Exiling is
Hmm.
it gets around Take Up the Shield.
Mm.
And that's a big part of the reason that card is so good as well, is that everyone is planning on protecting their big creatures with Take Up the Shield, and
Hmm.
it just doesn't work.
And
And
it's
the times
another
I've been
reason.
sitting there and I'm like, not Consuming Ashes,
Hmm.
anything else I was prepared for, but not that one.
Yeah, and it's another reason why Snakeskin Veil is so much better than Take Up the Shield,
Yeah.
because
I mean,
Snakeskin
the
Veil,
lifelink sometimes wins you the game or
it
changes the outcome of the game, but
absolutely.
yeah.
But for the purpose of what I like to think of those protection spells as is like I get rid of your removal.
Yeah.
Snakeskin Veil, it's like a counter spell, right? It's like Snakeskin Veil is the one, and I like it so much more than Take Up the Shield. Um, I know that that's not what everybody thinks, but that's one of the like so Snakeskin Veil stops consuming ashes as well as mystical tether and lassoed by the law and buried
Yeah.
in the garden, like any of the things that are like trying to oblivion ring, because there were 7 oblivion ring effects.
Yeah,
Journey
it's
to nowhere,
ridiculous.
Snakeskin
Yeah.
Veil stops all of them. Take of the shield stops none of them. So I still like Snakeskin Veil more, and I'll always pick it over Take of the shield. But also it costs 1 mana. It's
I
all the
think
great
if
things.
I'm in an aggro deck, which green white usually I think
Hmm.
of as like you're probably the aggressor. Like green white's such a weird deck because it's I'm the aggressor, but I also have a better late game. Like if you draft the nuts green white deck.
Hmm.
Um, maybe green black is the deck with a better late game than green white, but still
I
like
think so.
green white is still on it's like paladin, cactarantula, like big, big elemental token. Like the late game is there too, but it just also has the Airings into Drover Grizzly stuff.
Hmm.
It's like, what are you gonna do about this?
Yeah, well, green
But I
black is
think if
like
I'm in
I was just gonna say green
that
black
more
is
aggressive
the deck
build,
that sorry. I was just
we did it twice.
we did it twice. I was just trying to say that like the green black is good at the late game because it can grind 1 for 1 with all your stuff and then return their creatures back from the
Oh
graveyard.
yeah,
Um, but anyway, sorry, continue. You
yeah,
were
and like 2 for 1s. You with both of the reanimator spells are 2 for 1s in green black. Um,
mhm.
three, it even has Retstein too. Like there's just so many reanimator spells.
And
Uh,
reanimate.
yeah, well, yeah. Um, but I was just gonna say, if I'm in the aggro green white build, I'm way more interested in snakes in Veil because the life gain is not that relevant to me.
Mhm.
If my game plan is to like survive and then take over with my late game, I'll probably take up the shield just because I know it'll buy me 4 or 5 life at some point
Mhm.
that will help me get to that late game that I need. So it kind of depends which one, but I'd say if I'm in green white and I like saw both cards, most of the time I'm taking Snakeskin Veil.
Mhm. Isn't this such a cool conversation? I just want to say that like we have 2 protection spells that do 2 different things and they're both relevant in different situations and it's so cool to talk about. I think that's so fun.
Yeah,
Like you don't often get to do this. You know what I mean? I think that they designed this set really well. I'm
yeah,
happy that we have both of these different types of protection spells for different reasons. Um, and we get to have different camps of like what we prefer and all that stuff.
for
Just
sure.
super
Yeah.
cool. I I do want to say two things. One, obviously, Snakeskin Veil does not give indestructible, so don't put it on your creature and then block.
Yeah.
That happened to me the other day when I was watching somebody. I was like, why are they playing Snakeskin Veil? And they're gonna two for one themselves and
Ooh,
chump
I
block.
love
That's
that they just got the snakeskin veil out of their hand. That's
yeah. I'm just
awesome.
like,
Yeah.
oops. Like
Yeah.
you didn't read that card. Um, but the other one was I did have a deck the other day where I think it was the same deck where I just kept playing against opponents that was doing like wacky stuff. One of them
Mhm.
was them blocking and snakeskin veiling their creature, thinking that it was going to help, but it didn't. The other one was somebody like discarding to hand size early the Hollow Marauder. That's like the 6 mana 4/2 flying
Yeah.
creature. Well, I'm beating them down. They reanimate it and they lose 6 life. They dome themselves for 6 to
Oh
play
man.
this.
To
They
a
can't,
two toughness
a
creature.
two toughness creature that can't block very well, and I'm just like,
And it's like
okay,
attacks your hand, which is not the
not
resource that matters in this
right
game.
now. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I think that you just shot yourself in the face, like literally. Like this was not
Yeah.
good.
Thank you for
Um,
lava axing yourself.
yeah,
That's really kind of you.
yeah. So, um, I was
I mean,
just
that's a sweet,
idea.
I mean,
Um,
discarding the hand size isn't ideal, but if
no,
you were to
no.
discard it early and then reanimate that card, it's not a bad plan in a
If
vacuum.
that was a cat tarantula and you lost 6, then I'd be like,
Yeah,
this sucks because I can't get through
right.
this.
Nah, I'm completely stymied. But as
But
long as I have at least two power on my creatures, I can attack through that thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, very interesting. Just it's it's another one of those things where sometimes people are really excited by a really powerful card that they know is strong for
yeah,
reasons because there's mythos around the card, playing it
right.
kind fairly incorrectly and seeing the downside of all those cards. Um,
Yeah, I think, not quite that bad, but something I've personally noticed that I think people do too often. And to be fair, so I'm in I don't know, middle-ish diamond
mhm,
or whatever. I haven't seen it so much lately, but certainly through Platinum, I was seeing people using Snakeskin Veil just to win a combat way more often than they should be doing it. I
mm-mm,
they'll attack with their 2/3 and they have one green up, and I have my 3/3, defender guy. And I'm like, well, this is obviously Snakeskin Veil, but I would happily trade this creature for Snakeskin Veil. Like,
mhm,
no doubt about it in my mind that I would love you to tap out and play your Snakeskin Veil in this combat, and I will lose this three. I'll trade this 3/3 for Snakeskin Veil. Then
mhm,
I can untap and kill whatever I want. Like, that's great, please. So snap block, they play Snakeskin Veil. They're priced into it now, right?
mhm,
Because I think sometimes maybe they think I'm not going to block because they have a green mana open, attack with their 2/3. I have a 3/3. It's like literally telling me I have Snakeskin Veil.
mhm. Because
And
there's
I'm like,
nothing else it could be.
right. And I'm like, great. I will definitely take you up on that.
Mhm,
And so I saw a lot of players doing that. And I personally would never do that, basically. Like, I would have to be in a very specific situation to try to use Snakeskin Veil in that way.
mhm,
It has to be a really great card I'm getting off the battlefield, or my opponent is so low on life and this is a tempo play and
mhm.
it's likely to matter more than
Or
the
like
protection. I have
I'm
like
using
five creatures, right? So I'm not trying to protect any one. I'm trying to
something
get
like
them all
that,
through.
or like because of this attack, I like need my prairie dog to gain some life this turn, something
Yeah,
like
right.
that.
If it's on a creature or tramples and
Hmm.
I don't know, some there's some additional reason to do that. As a
Besides,
baseline, you shouldn't be using this card as a combat trick, really. You should be using it as a protection spell.
yeah, the +1/+1 counter is just a bonus.
Yeah.
Um, is what you really should be. It's really just green hexproof. That's what you should think of it as. Um, just
But so many
because
people do that. And I'm just
I
like,
know.
cha-ching, yeah. Or
Yeah.
worse, I have mana untapped, right? So they attack with a 2/3, one mana open. I block with my 3/3. Now they have to Snakeskin Veil, and I'm like, okay, kill it in response. Thanks
Hmm.
for that one. The free
Two
two
for one
for one
yourself.
there.
Yeah, that's rough. I
Yeah, just
definitely.
just don't do that. Just
The
don't do
other
it.
thing is like and I am also in the same mindset sometimes. Like I know what it's like to want to just, you know,
Oh yeah.
the thing that you need to stop doing is every single turn asking, how do I attack? Like what is the situation where I get to attack? That is the question that gets you in a hard place. Is that you're thinking, well, I can still attack. I have Snakeskin Veil, so I get to attack here. You just need to stop asking that question all the time. You need to ask different questions of like all the other questions like how am I going to lose this game? What do they have to do to beat me in this game? Am I the beat down? Are they the beat down? All those types of questions are more important than the can I attack this turn?
Yeah.
Because the amount of times where and I do this all the time. I'm such an aggressive player. I'm
Hmm.
constantly this is really just me talking to myself. I am constantly asking myself, how do I attack this turn? And I've been in that situation so many times, so I know the
Yeah,
let's just attack. I'll use my like combat trick just to get in some damage.
for
Um,
sure. And I think there are formats where that's totally fine. It's just not
Absolutely,
this. It's not
it's
this one.
definitely not this one.
Yeah.
The games are going to go longer. You're gonna, like you just said, smash for 7. They go to 4. Play a paladin. They're up to
Yeah.
7, and you just can't beat them anymore. And you're just like, well, all right, fuck.
And there's just so much removal in this set that you're
Yeah,
definitely going to want that snakeskin veil. It's a lot of the time it's like, well, they might even not even draw removal. Let's just get
no.
some value out of the snakeskin veil now and like move on with my life. That's not this set. This set, your
No.
opponent will cast a removal in a game that's competitive that you
Mm-hmm.
weren't just going to win anyways. Your opponent will be casting a removal spell at some
Mm-hmm.
point in that game
Yeah.
for sure. There's
Yeah.
just so much of it in this set.
There's a
So
specific slot for cards that remove stuff or are crimes, like
yeah. And
it
so a lot of the time, people have it built in. Snakeskin Veil, removal slow, clunky, there's not a lot of it. It's more likely to be useful as a, tempo play here. In this set, it's like,
no,
flip that around. This is going to protect something at a key moment in the game.
play this as if you're playing constructed. It's the constructed version of Snakeskin Veil, basically,
Yeah.
which is
And the
always
way it
really good.
works out is everyone knows you have Snakeskin Veil. You know it,
Hmm.
your opponent knows it. You've left a green mana open every turn of the game. And Arena might have did you dirty at some point
Hmm.
where it paused for priority when you only had one green mana open. Everybody knows it. Your opponent will eventually begrudgingly play into it. That's just
Hmm.
kind of, or like will, cleverly play around it and make annoying attacks for you that
Yeah,
incentivize you to use it as a combat trick. That's
that'd be
what I do.
cool.
I try to like make it really juicy for someone to just use it as a combat trick. Um, but like generally the play pattern with Snakeskin Veil is like, fuck. Well, what are the odds they don't have it? Pretty much zero, right? But I got to do
Hmm.
this anyways, so here we go. And then you put it in there, and
And
it's
then you
like
just go.
Snakeskin Veil, and you're like, what a shocker. Um, but like, there's just nothing you could do about it because it was just too good in that situation. So compare that to killing my 3/3 with Defender. Like the card can do a lot more than that.
It can do so much. Um, Also, things that could do so much. I was just looking at the rare cards. So the rare cards that have the best game in hand win rate. And obviously, just
BP.
these are just like regular rares. The first one is Bonnie Paul,
Yeah,
which I already knew. This card's like you take
no
it
surprise.
literally anytime you see it. You try to
Card
smash it in
is
your deck any way
unreasonably
you
good.
can.
Yeah,
This is also a huge reason why you'd play blue over red. You get a Bonnie Paul.
yeah.
It's double blue, so you have to be heavy blue. But I was really surprised. The second card, have you seen this?
Oh, I knew
Like,
this one.
this card is awesome. I just didn't put it this high. I don't think of Roxanne Starfall Savant to be this high on the tier list of cards you should be
Oh,
taking.
wait, hold on. I'm looking at my game in hand. Oh, because you're not looking at Mythic Rares. Gotcha, gotcha,
No,
gotcha.
no, just looking
Yeah,
at
yeah,
rares. Just looking at rares.
yeah. Roxanne. Yeah, I mean, I've played with Roxanne a couple of times, just been like, this card's obviously bonkers.
Roxanne is great. I
Second best rare. I guess that's a little surprising to me.
It's
Yeah.
really surprising. I would put this like not even in the top 10. But I like it a lot, but I just don't think it's this like.
In the top
phenomenal.
10 rares?
No, I said not in the top 10 rares.
You wouldn't even put in the top 10 rares. I think part of my own internal bias, but I would have Seraphic Steed above this for
Hmm.
sure. If I was like not looking at these results.
I'd
Um,
have Ornery Tumblewag above this. I'd have Dust Animus above this. I'd have Pest Infestation
Dust
above this.
Animus for sure above this.
Bruce Tarl. Uh,
Oh, I love Bruce. He was a big
right?
part of all those quote unquote Naya decks that I had played
Hmm.
so much of. They were green white splashing Bruce,
I
like several of them. Yeah.
Laughing Jasper Flint would probably be above Roxanne. Like
I don't know, man. I've played Roxanne a few times. Roxanne's pretty good. I'm kind of surprised to see Cruel Ultimatum so high, to be honest.
that is strange, but I know it's like the thing with Cruel Ultimatum is that it's not in anyone's deck unless they've actually been able to break
Right,
them.
yeah, it's
You know?
selection bias.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's literally like if you have the deck for it, then sweet. But
Right,
there are
otherwise it's just in the sideboard.
yeah, or just never picked. Right.
I had one Cruel Ultimatum deck that
Did it
I
actually
think
come
it only
together?
got I think it got like 5 wins, so it was
Okay.
decent. Every game that I won, I cast
Hmm.
Cruel Ultimatum. Every game that I lost, I did not cast Cruel Ultimatum.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
But there was one game in particular, we were talking about Slickshot Lockpicker earlier. Guess what
Mm.
I got to do with
Oh,
my Slickshot
you did?
Lockpicker?
No
I did.
way. No
Yeah.
way. You didn't
I
post a
cast
screenshot of this? Oh my
I cast that
gosh.
baby twice. Well, my
You're on your
opponent had
phone.
essentially lost the game after the
Oh,
first
okay.
one. But I had already plotted the lockpicker. I think
Gotcha.
maybe they were letting me do it because they like passed the turn. And then I was
Okay.
like, lockpicker, cruel ultimatum you again. But it's just like I probably could have like won the game in some other way. But
Yeah.
that was the way that I chose, and I believe my opponent
Respected it.
maybe didn't concede so that I got the opportunity to do that, which I appreciate if my
I
opponent is listening to this. If you ever got crueled twice, it
mhm.
could have been me, and thank you for letting me do it.
Yeah, yeah. If it was Blues Brews, it was definitely Jeff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I That's definitely on the bingo card of like cruel ultimating twice. It's like one of the reasons you would want to play Grixis at all. And that's the other thing
Yeah.
about this fucking breaking news sheet that's so awesome. This is what you want draft to be, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is it. Like I was playing in paper the other day. I ended up drafting like a pretty mediocre like Boros deck, splashing Laughing Jasper Flint. But um just the fact that everyone was talking about like this draft set is sweet and it kind of feels like chaos almost because there are so many random things thrown in there that actually do matter. Like we've had bonus sheets where like in Woe, right? Wilds of Eldraine, we had a bonus sheet, but it was like, some of the cards mattered, but there's a good chunk of them that really didn't.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of the bonus like
Just
breaking
nobody ever
news.
takes them, and yeah.
It's like, oh, the doubling season thing, or any of those kinds of
Or
enchantments that are just
Blood
like,
Moon.
yeah, that are like, this isn't really,
I'm gonna play Blood Moon in draft. Like
yeah,
the card's awful.
it just doesn't do anything unless there's like, you know, uncommon lands as well as common lands.
Yeah.
Like there's so many duels or something, but as far as like breaking new stuff in general, it was just, I think this sheet is pretty sweet. They all seem relevant because they all impact limited in some way. I've seen
Yeah.
most every card cast. It's
Yeah, I've been turn one thought seized in this limited format like several times.
I love it. I love it so much.
And the thing is, it's not actually that strong in limited because the strength of Thoughtseize is like certain cards in your hand matter. And my
Hmm.
limited hand is like I have a bunch of like random creatures. You can mess up my curve a little bit, but
Yeah, it's like you get to mess up my curve or like
or you
pre-remove something.
or we were just talking about it was daggers when they took my snakeskin veil, but I was
Mm,
like, okay, it's that's a bummer. Good
yeah,
choice. I was kind of like, please take anything else, and you did not
but
do
this,
that. So
yeah.
now I know your hand is chock full of removal, and that's the card you didn't want me to have. But
Hmm.
cool,
Definitely.
cool, 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 cool.
But I just I this isn't our happy hour for the set, but at this moment I'm feeling just still excited to be drafting this, even though we have Modern Horizons 3 coming up on the
Yeah,
horizon. Um,
I'm still loving it. I'm thinking I need to explore the Grixis colors a little more because I've been losing to Grixis
mhm,
recently. And my Abzan decks haven't, I mean, it's always green white, but my
mhm.
green white decks haven't been performing up to the snuff that I'm usually expecting. But
I think I hit that curve maybe like last week or a little bit before that where I was after we did the RCQ, I started quickly going into Grixis, being like, what else can we do in this format?
yeah.
Um, and wanting to be able to do the Tai Joaquin Fireball deck sounds
Mm,
fun.
yeah. I mean, you
Um,
mentioned the red white with Laughing Jasper Flint. I'm
mhm.
just imagining like form a posse plus Laughing Jasper Flint.
Mill your
It's like
opponent.
literally a mill deck at that
Yeah,
point.
it's literally just Mardu Mill.
Yeah.
Um, and even without the Laughing Jasper Flint is just strong. When I was playing that in paper, it was just like, let me see your deck. Like I'm playing whatever you got. I had like I've never had a Boros deck where like I have 7 cards in my hand and I'm playing
Mm,
spells every turn, but my hand still stays at 7 essentially because like,
right.
well, I should
Because you're
probably
playing
just
off
play.
the Flint. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, your cards are pretty good. I'll just keep playing your black cards and your green cards, and I'll leave all mine in my hand for the time that you kill my Laughing Jasper Flint. It was, uh, it was great. That card is great, really good, lots of fun. Would recommend.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever had it in my deck. I've always been on the receiving end.
Mm.
But the cool thing that just made me think of is, do you remember like I think last time I mentioned I've never had and I don't even know the name of this card, but I've never had the black white uncommon that doesn't suck. The
Oh,
good
are you
one.
seriously Ruthless Lawbringer?
I've never had that. And looking at like I've never seen it in a draft. I think maybe
Oh,
once, but there was like a bomb rare in the pack, so I took the rare.
mm-hmm.
Looking at my untapped lands, uh, I uh, I have never drafted black white.
That's so
I
funny.
have no matches with black white.
Black White is my best performing deck at
Yeah.
like.
And Black White's a really good deck in the format, like
Mhm.
third according to 17
Yeah,
lands.
if you don't play the stupid vampire cards, you're great.
And I've gotten smushed by it plenty of times. So,
By
like,
Baron Bertram?
no, by Black White decks.
Yeah, Black White decks. Yeah, 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 but not Baron Bertram. Great
No,
lord.
mostly it's the other one that gets me where I'm just like, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that. Adding like a creature to the board and getting rid of my biggest thing
Hmm.
at the low cost of a stupid mercenary token is
Yeah,
a dagger.
it's so good. Like other reasons why Mourner Surprise and all those other like random comments that just like give you just hey, here's a free creature are awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
Mourner's Surprise, I had to frame it as like, wait a minute,
this is a
this is Gravedigger.
yeah.
This is a 3 mana 1/1 Gravedigger. So it's like you get
Two,
a,
two, two, two.
or sorry, yeah, 2 mana like it's a half Gravedigger because
Yeah.
it's a 1/1 for 2
Hmm.
that gets you the card back, but then it also has the activated ability and stuff. It's like
That's better than
it's really
Gravedigger.
good. I think
It's
the only
really good.
reason I overlooked it is that I was always playing green black when I was looking at it, and I already had so many.
It
Like I
is
was like,
like
well, it's like my fourth
you
reanimation or
might play
my
like
like
one, right?
yeah.
You
Um
actually, as we're talking about these, well, the first thing I wanted to say is that oftentimes in my decks, I'm looking at Fake Your Own Death, which is the 2 mana instant until end turn target creature gets +2/+0, and when it dies, return it to the battlefield tapped, create a treasure token.
I never
Or I'm
played
gonna
that card.
or I'm gonna play Mourner Surprise, and I always
Yeah.
play Mourner Surprise over Fake Your Own Death
I think I
because
would do the same, yeah. Those are both cards that are underplayed for me for sure. I should play
mhm,
Mourner Surprise more than I do.
Mourner
Fake Your
Surprise.
Own Death is one of those cards that I'm willing to lose to, but it just never ends up in my deck.
Fake your own death is the card that I often look at literally being um like Black's version of Snakeskin Veil and
Yeah, it's just so much
Take Up the
worse.
Shield. unless you're splashing something.
Right.
If you're like blue reds or sorry, black red splash anything, and you're like, I just need one pip of something, and I need a way to make a treasure token, and I don't have this stupid tapper treasure guy, whatever.
Yeah.
I always dance with the idea of like, do I play Fake Your Own Death to like do something early to keep like a my Desperate Bloodseeker on the battlefield, gain 4 life or something, but also hold the treasure token for when I have to splash. That's always something that I haven't actually successfully done it, and so that's why I don't think it's that great, and I always play Mourner Surprise over it. But it's always
Yeah.
in my head. Like the treasure token is what really dings. It's like, oh, is this a take up the shield, but you get a treasure token? Like, is that really what it is?
Plus, if you use it when you have a Bertram on the battlefield, you also get a 1/1. So,
Totally, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's
yeah.
exactly why it's good.
Yeah.
Um, I did want to talk about something that was kind of fun that I was doing in one of my mill decks with
Okay, I
all the
love
Deep
it.
Muck Desperados. So
Yeah.
most of the time when I'm playing Deep Muck Desperado, we're playing blue black because obviously black is able to target a bunch of your opponent's stuff. Deep Muck
Mhm.
Desperado, you have to commit crimes so that you get to mill, or sorry, yeah, you get to mill your opponent. But I was having a good time with Lively Dirge. So Lively
Mhm.
Dirge is 1 and a black for a sorcery. It has Spree, so you can add an extra 1 mana to search your library for a card and put it into your graveyard. And then you can pay 2 extra mana to return up to 2 target creature cards with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. What would happen is that in the decks, I was trying to figure out what's the combination of 4 that I need. I always want to get my Deep Muck Desperado back because my opponents always kill it. But either I'm searching up or getting from my graveyard the Harrier Strix, which is just the 1 mana 1/1 flyer
Yeah.
that taps a creature. I get to mill my opponent immediately when I do that. So usually I
Okay.
either have one in my deck or in my graveyard just because they're I may play 1 or 2, but the Lively Dirge ended up being that combo of like, okay, if I need to get a Deep Mike Desperado, I can get it with Lively Dirge for 5 mana. I just like go get my Deep Mug Desperado, throw my graveyard, bring it on the battlefield. Hopefully, I have a Harrier Strikes as well. Immediately mill them and get the train rolling. And if I happened to be able to do it when I had one on the battlefield already, that's 6 milled, like all that kind of stuff, ended up being really interesting and was a lot of fun. I will say I did not win a lot of those games, but I did really think it was interesting, and I like Lively Dirge a lot. I think it's such a cool card
Yeah.
and it does
I had a
different
pair of them in my
stuff.
pre-release pool, and I don't know if I've played it since.
Yeah.
But um, like I just haven't ended up in a lot of black decks. Like I
Hmm.
play a lot of Naya based decks,
Hmm.
either Naya
Interesting.
itself or green white or red white.
Because I always play Abzan because I think I like black a lot.
I think black is one of those colors that I'm not aggressive enough in some of my card choices for.
Okay.
Like that's something, I did the whole thing with green where I'm like, just try taking green cards, see what happens. Maybe I
Hmm.
need to be a bit more aggressive in my pick orders and evaluations of black cards because I just never seem to end up in black decks. And
Hmm.
when I do, it's just because like it would be ridiculous not to. Like I just got past insane cards. And, like we're talking like fourth pick consuming ashes kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I guess people aren't taking black cards.
Hmm.
Um, so that's looking at these stats kind of reinforces that too, that I'm just like, I never find myself in black. Um, So got to take a look at that. But yeah, Lively Dirge is one of those cards that also fell a bit for me. We talked about cards that are better than we thought
It's
coming into
worse
the
than you thought.
format. I think it's performing a bit worse than I thought, mostly because there are so many other ways to bring creatures back from the graveyard
That
or
are
to.
bigger. Yeah.
And like I think the common version that we talked about, the Mourner's Surprise, is
Hmm.
better. So it's like just on the balance, obviously live
For
leader
sure.
is more powerful, is what you want
Hmm.
from your uncommon, but Mourner Suppress thing just better as the semi gravedigger there.
I agree. I think that Lively Dirge's uh, strengths come in specific scenarios.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean I love that combo.
right?
So like
Like
Deep
being
Muck
able to,
Desperado plus something that commits a crime. It's
yeah.
nice.
Or even in the late game, you're literally just bringing back two Desperate Bloodseekers that mill your
Right.
opponent for four plus whatever else you have to mill. Um, but it does have its obviously weaknesses where it's, another reanimation spell that, like, this one doesn't get the big stuff back.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I think it's cool that this is a seemingly there is a graveyard deck that actually is a good graveyard deck, and we don't have to have entire graveyard mechanics revolve around it. We don't
Right.
need to have Deep Fathom Descent or whatever. Like, we just have a deck that does regular graveyard shit. It's only one deck that really cares about it,
Yeah.
and
And it's mostly just a function of the green creatures are good, so
mhm.
bringing them back is
It
good.
just feels like Cube. That's what Cube does,
Yeah. Right.
where it's like there's it's to the point where you have to like pick and choose which reanimation spells you want to play because you can't play all of them because you have to play creatures. Like
Right. You
that's
need
what this
creatures to reanimate.
this is what this feels like. Where I'm cubing and I'm like, oh shit, I have seven reanimation spells. I don't have enough creatures to bring back. I need to pick those now. You know,
I've
like
never had the dream of like the armadillo into reanimate, um,
oh
but I'd
the
love that.
it's very fun. It's very
Yeah.
fun.
I
Whenever
think it
you
happened at the Pro Tour on camera at one point.
yeah,
I
I
think it was against Seth, and Seth was just like, "No, like, all right,
like
you
don't
got me."
the the times when I'm like, what the fuck is when my opponent's on like five and they throw the armadillo in the bin to get a land. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, there's no
Uh-oh.
way. I was like,
You
oh
know they're getting that back
yeah, I was like,
later.
this is really rough. Like, I'm still at the point. I still have this hard thing where I just do not respect my opponents. I'm like, my opponent is an idiot. What are
Yeah,
they
why would
doing?
they do that? And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, so they could be back for more. It could be Badlands Revival. Like they definitely plan on getting this back later. Uh,
And I'm just like, why is my opponent's an idiot? Attack all into your
yeah.
six untapped mana for back for more.
Yeah.
Like
Clearly they flooded out. They
yeah.
shouldn't have discarded that armadillo
To get a
earlier.
land. What are they doing? Stupid idiots. Just want to gain three life? Dummy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time. Like if you enjoy this, you should just come watch my stream because I do shit like that all the time where I'm just like, what an idiot.
And then as soon as they play it, like that makes a lot of
Yeah, that
sense.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow, you're a lot
Literally
smarter than me.
explains the
Hmm.
last several
I should have
turns.
thought of like anything before doing any of the stuff I did. Good job.
Instead of just assuming you sucked.
Yeah, constantly. Like my opponent's so dumb. Oh shit. Actually, I'm so dumb. Constantly.
Yeah.
All the time. Uh,
I do it the opposite though, where I'm like, oh, it must be some dastardly plan. And I'm like, nope, they just made a mistake. Oh, well,
hmm.
I just played around nothing for like 4 turns.
Oh, that's so funny. God, I love it.
But oh, that's what I want to say. So we
Yeah.
briefly touched on cards that were worse than we thought they were. So let
Hmm.
me rapid fire some cards that
You think are
uh
terrible?
offend me now because
Mm.
I loved them and now they've really let me down. So the number one all time real bummer for this set for me is so to preface this, I think I even talked about this last time or maybe 2 times ago, but in the pre-release, I happen to have four of this little guy in my deck, and I was like, oh yeah, like we're doing it. This
Hmm.
guy is great. And you know what? He sucks. And that is the Reckless Lackey. This card sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, okay. I don't.
There's no reason for it to be bad. Okay, on
Mhm.
paper, it's a 1/2 haste first strike that should be good in the early game. You sack it in the late game to get a treasure token and replaces itself, and it's an outlaw. Everything about this card should be good. It's not good. It's not a good card.
I will say that this card needs more to be good than you originally thought. And I agree with you that it sucks worse than you thought for this draft format. However, Reckless Lackey does get significantly stronger in the red white deck where you have a bunch of mercenaries and you get to attack with a 5/2 first striker every turn. Like that becomes really good.
I'm off it. It's terrible. Worst card
Okay.
in the set.
All right, that's
It's
fine.
the most offensive to me because it should just be straight good.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
instead
agree.
it's like very situationally good, but generally don't play it.
Okay,
Fuck this card.
all right. I'll let you have that one. I
But yes, if you have a lot, but that's what remember I said pretty early on, the red white deck is all about forming a posse.
mhm,
And like that card is emblematic of the deck, but yeah, just making mercenary tokens in general is what the deck is actually
mhm.
required to have a good red white deck. Sure, in that deck I'd probably play it, but I was under like my thinking on this card coming in was any red deck wants this,
Hmm.
and I don't think that's true.
Yes, I think that's definitely true. In the same way that not every blue deck wants Spring Splasher, right? Where it's like it's very
Yeah.
situational. I think
Every
that
blue deck I play wants Spring Splasher,
I mean
but
like that's definitely true.
I don't play blue that often, and when I do, it tends to be a Spring
Uh,
Splashery deck. But
for sure, for sure, for sure. Um, I want to say that so, this isn't a card. This is just something I want a PSA for. Like you
mm,
were actually specifically talking about cards that were like much worse than we originally thought. This card is
yeah, I got
significantly
more too. So,
well. This one's I just have one that's significantly better than I thought,
oh, we're going the
and
other way. Okay.
I've just been. I mean, we're flashing back and forth. I think a lot of cards for me in general are just better than I originally thought. Because I, for the most part, have thought cards were like, this is kind of meh, and then I'm like, oh shit, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
much better than I thought. Because I just underestimate everything.
I've had
Um,
a lot of both at this set, which is unique. Usually I'm same as you, that I'm
yeah.
just like, I'll let people prove to me that this card is good, and then, all right, they prove to me that that card's good.
So the only reason that this is like a thing is because I just didn't read the card correctly.
Oh, another classic Zach
Yeah,
moment. Yeah.
classic exact moment. I know this card was great, and it's basically like this card was great, and then I was seeing more applications for it. I was like, oh, this card's awesome.
Hmm.
Shepherd of the Clouds. This is the
Oh,
Pegasus.
that's the mythic uncommon of the set, I think.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
that's the card you want.
yeah.
That's
This is I've been passing this card because I didn't realize.
what?
Okay, let me explain. Let me
How dare you?
explain. This is it's a white card. It's a 5 mana 4/3 with flying and vigilance. And it says when it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Return that card to the battlefield if you control a mount. I thought it said if it was a mount. So I thought you could
The card's still
only.
nuts,
I know, but
but
I thought
yes,
you
it
could
is.
only
It's
return mounts from your graveyard to the battlefield. My
right.
opponent returned a mystical tether from the graveyard
Yes.
to the
And,
battlefield,
oh, absolutely.
and I was furious. That was horrible.
Then you're like, how many times have I passed this card?
Yeah, and I was like, "What the fuck? You can do that?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my God," because they had a like, what they had a possum or something on the battlefield, and I'm just like, "Oh my
Yeah, of
God, you gotta
course.
be
The green white
kidding
deck
me!"
has a ton of mounts.
It was just,
I think the card would be nuts even the way that you read it. But
mhm.
yes, this one is it is even stronger than that. Yeah.
So I've just only been thinking about creatures. The deck has only felt like, oh, small creature deck, whatever. Okay, I really like it. It's annoying when my opponent plays it. I really like. It's really good. I know it's really good. But the fact that they can return the removal that I've destroyed with my voracious vermin or whatever, that is the crazy thing.
Yeah. I have brought back Voracious Vermin to get something again, which was nice. Like so I have a different story with this card. Um, I went through, I think I got like, so I started in bronze at the end of last season. I won my way up to like silver. I got pushed back at the
Sure,
start of
sure,
this
sure.
season. So I didn't start technically from zero, but essentially I did because I only made it to
From Super.
silver or gold or whatever before getting pushed back.
Sure.
And then I think I made it up to platinum in this season before ever seeing this card. I didn't see it in play on my opponent's side of
Oh
the
shit.
battlefield. I never saw it in a pack, or if I did, like there was so much going on that I didn't notice it. I never had it in my deck for sure. And it showed up in a draft randomly. And I was like, oh, here's this card I'm seeing for the first time. It must be terrible because nobody plays it or whatever. And I read it and I was like, what? This is like the best non-rare card in the set for sure. Like this card is fucking insane. It's a 4/3 flying vigilance gravedigger like that can also get removal.
Hmm.
Like what? And it goes right to the battlefield, not even to your hand. Like this card is straight cracked. So I took it. And then in that draft, I had three of these. I had like four Airynxes. I had three of these. I had like two or three mystical tethers, and I just smashed everyone. It was just like
That sounds
the game was
disgusting.
rewarding me for not having had the opportunity to play with this card yet. And they're like, I heard you like Pegasus. So I got you a
How about
Pegasus
some
for your
more?
Pegasus.
Yeah,
And I was
that
just like,
is
whoa, this card
gross.
is busted. I think it's the best non-rare card in the set. But I just like never played against it or with it for
I, I feel
for such a weird amount of time
I feel
before
like
I
I
was
play
just
against
like,
it
what does this thing do?
so rarely. I want to see how
Yeah, I
far
almost
down it
never see
is
it.
as far as like win rate. In like it's below Prairie Dog.
It's below.
It's
That's surprising. I mean, well, Prairie Dog's a two drop, I guess, but
it's below the Pixie. Wait, where the fuck is this card? Like, oh my gosh. Wait, maybe I feel like I screwed this up and like I missed it or something. Like I must have missed it. Where is this card? Oh, sorry, it was way up at the top.
it was
Literally the second white card. Okay, perfect.
yeah.
Um, but below last one by the law. Yeah, my bad. It's definitely not below any of those.
I think I would take this card over Lasted by the Law personally, but
Yeah, and that's where I would take last one by the law, which is a reason why I haven't had it in my deck.
yeah. I just think there's so much removal, right? This is to me, this is more irreplaceable. Even though Lasted by
Mm.
the Law is the best removal spell because
For
it's like a
white, yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, because it also
but
exiles non-land permanents, so you can just get whatever random thing that you need. You can pick up their mystical tether to get your creature back, or whatever.
yeah,
Um,
definitely Lasted is awesome.
yeah.
But anyways, back to me ranting about cards that did not
Okay.
live up
Yes,
to my
please,
expectations.
please get me on this train because I need to be more on track with like
Okay, the
being
next card
disappointed.
that sucks more than you think it sucks,
Okay.
because most of you out there, maybe even you, Zach, think this card is good
Okay.
and are taking it relatively highly. And it's not terrible, but it's not that good, and you shouldn't be taking it highly.
Okay.
Hard Bristle Bandit. Fuck this card.
What?
Cards
What?
cards just okay, man. Cards just okay. Don't take it as a signal to go green. There are many green commons that are better than this. Don't take it as like an early pick. It's not a green signal. There are like five green commons better than this. So if you see this early, it means nothing. This is a middle to mid late pick. And I know it took me a long time to accept that. This card is just okay.
I don't
And
like this at all.
and as hyperbole, fuck this card.
No.
Fuck
We're not getting into the fuck this card for not for Hard Bristle
it.
Bandit. I love Hard
I'm
Bristle
sorry.
Bandit.
Fuck Hard Bristle Bandit.
Oh, you gotta. All right, I gotta find where this is on our 17 lands thing. But no, this card, I love Hard Bristle Bandit. This card,
You shouldn't. It's
it's
only okay.
obviously low on the pick order, but like, I don't know. I want to be splashing. This card helps splash. The other green tapper, obviously, it's not a common, but like, it doesn't help you splash. It's the amount of times I like hard bristle bandit into giant beaver. I love. I don't know. I don't agree
Never
with you on
works
this
out
one.
very rarely. Hard Bristle Bandit is the type of card that like is supposed to accelerate you early and get you those advantages, but because of the sheer amount of removal in this set, it tends to never do that. What it does do is you draw it late when it fucking blows, or just sits around on the battlefield being a 1/1 for the whole game. So I'm not wholly totally off this card. If I'm not able to pick up any Intrepid Stable Masters or whatever, then I'll
Yeah.
take this. But it's late. I'll play this if I have no Stable Masters and I'm splashing and I pick it up in the mid to late pack. But move it down in your pick order, I'm telling you, because I used to take this as like, oh, Hard Bristle Bandit fifth pick. Like people may not be taking green.
Fifth? No,
Found
fifth
it.
is good. What are you talking about? I don't.
No,
I like the
that's not a
turns.
signal if you see this fifth pick.
The turns where I get to like kill something and then untap it to play a creature,
I mean,
like
it
are
feels good, but is it good?
yeah,
It
I get to
feels it
double spell when
feels
I couldn't double
cool.
spell. I think that's
It
good.
feels cooler than, but you used an earlier play on that.
You mean pick? I
Early pick and an
yeah.
early play in the game, right? So it's like you took turn two essentially off to facilitate that later. So you do get two spells later in the game, but you didn't do anything on turn two. That's like the thing you did on turn two is set that up because this doesn't attack or block.
It
So
totally does. It eventually chumps their big thing.
not well. They have a Drover Grizzly,
Well, not if I'm removing
or
stuff.
they have take the trash out or whatever that card is
Take the
fucking called.
trash out. What
Tra
the
trash the town.
trash this town.
I'm just, hey man, I'm just
Okay.
telling you, this is like not even the top half of green commons, I don't think. I haven't looked at 17 lands, but that's like my internal feeling about this, is it just keeps
All
like
right.
moving down and down my pick order.
It I still like it a lot, but whatever,
I
man.
used to take this as a signal for green. I don't anymore. I used to take this relatively highly in my green decks. I just don't anymore. You can get these. They're okay. Don't play two. Two's wrong.
You should play two.
Um,
Splash everything you can.
nah,
Have fun.
nah.
Play
I
three colors.
personally, and this is a little crazy, and I acknowledge that. I like Voracious Varmint better than this card.
Okay, I like that conversation. Voracious Varmint is phenomenal and is so annoying when you're playing the white deck and you sit down and someone plays Voracious Varmint and you're like, fuck, how am I supposed to get rid of their shit? You're playing like white blue and you're like,
Oh yeah,
all my removal is like Stop Cold, Mystical Tether, and Lasso by the Law. It's like,
yeah,
how am I supposed to get rid of anything? And like, how do you convince your opponent to blow something up? So like, you have to. I I can't even remember what I did, but I was in a situation where like had to try to convince my opponent to blow up something else before I played my Mystical Tether. I can't even remember what the artifact was. I did something that was just like, hey, this is a juicy target, right? You might want to blow it up with your varmint. And then I was able to get rid of all their other shit. And I was like, thank
yeah.
God they used that varmint up way too early.
That's how
But
games always go, man. They're your
mhm,
opponents always my opponents always try to convince me to blow something up with Varmint, and I'm like, all right, so they have Journey to Nowhere. And then it's like, nope, they're
mhm.
trying really hard. They have Lassoed by the Law. And it's like, no, it's like, the thing they have just gets better and better in my mind
Yeah.
until, and then I'm like, oh shit, it was Outlaws Merriment. Yeah, that explains it. Yeah, I'll blow that up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure blow that up.
No chance in hell I'm letting you on top with that. But,
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, I think varmint uh
and
ends
varmints go late, man. Like relative to when you get to pick up a varmint. I love the varmint because People
It's
just
true.
seem to pass them, and I'm like, I always want one in my green decks.
Hmm.
I'll play more than that sometimes, but I always want one because it's
Also,
just,
varmint commits a crime. Don't forget that. It's
yeah.
so good. Um, it
This
commits a
is the
crime.
silly opponent play PSA I have is don't blow up. What, like I targeted someone's varmint with Journey to Nowhere and they blew it up in response. Like, or sorry, if they blew not, I didn't target the varmint. I used Journey to Nowhere and they blew it up in response. Don't do that. That's
Oh,
not how Journey to Nowhere works.
no, no, no,
It's
no.
one of the old templated ones.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with how magic cards work, um, sorry, that was a rude thing to say. If you're not familiar
Modern
with,
cards, they do work that way. Like the
mhm,
modern templating of that effect is if you kill it while this effect is on the stack, nothing will happen basically.
mhm,
And I forget what I was targeting, but like it
simply
mattered
creature.
that, but it mattered that they wanted it to just never happen rather than happen and then come back.
Oh, gotcha. It must
But
have had
that's just not
counters or
how,
something.
yeah, that's probably, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what Jeff is saying is that Journey to Nowhere has the templating where there's two separate paragraphs. The first paragraph says when this enters the battlefield, exile target creature. The second paragraph says when it leaves the battlefield, return the creature to the battlefield under its owner's control.
Yeah,
Because they're two separate paragraphs, that means they're two separate triggers. That means the first one happens if you kill it while the first trigger is on the stack, the second trigger goes on the stack, and then you end up exiling the creature forever.
for good. Yeah,
It's what Oblivion Ring originally was. Journey to Nowhere is exactly the same templating. They have
yeah,
since fixed that because it can be abused um,
yeah.
by the
With like fl like
flicker
blink.
effects,
Yeah,
and so
you can.
you can manipulate it yourself. So like if you play Journey to Nowhere and then you like bounce it back to your hand or you flicker it, you'll be
Yeah,
able to set the stack in a certain way that you get to just straight up exile a couple things. Um,
right. And get the thing back and play and do it like
do it again.
yeah,
Our cards no longer do that just because that's a rude way to have things templated. Everything's in the same
yeah,
paragraph. You can see on Mystical Tether and Lasted by the Law, they were the same
right.
paragraph.
And they say until this leaves the battlefield or
Hmm.
whatever. And
Just
so
like
if you
Leyline
kill
Binding.
those
Yeah.
in response, it works that your creature never gets exiled
Because it
and it
was
keeps +1/+1 counters or it keeps yeah,
all that stuff. So that's a good PSA for sure. This set has so many of those effects. It's really
right.
confusing. So
Old cards templated weird, and if you haven't played with them, they can be unintuitive.
yeah, it's just one of those fun magic things where they like to be like, "Oh hey, gotcha, sucker," and then you just cry in the corner.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh man, that went like not only did they not get their creature like the creature's gone forever and their varmint was gone. It was like you just lost
Hmm.
the game. Like
You just
because you
it's
didn't
over.
know that this old card works differently. As opposed to my removal spell trading with your 2/2 and a couple of +1/+1 counters, it was
Hmm.
like traded with your whole board.
You sacrificed everything, and what did it give you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Rough, 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 rough.
On to just one more. Got to throw out there another
Give
green
it to me.
card. I got to throw another green card under the bus here.
What the fuck?
Cards that I thought were good and totally suck, and you should never play them ever because they're the worst thing in the whole universe.
Hmm.
Is I hate to do this, but Gold Rush, man.
Gold Rush sucks.
Gold Rush sucks.
Gold Rush really
And
sucks. Yeah.
I was like, you know what? This like when I read it first, I was like, this card's pretty good. And in the tournament that we went to, the sealed event.
Hmm.
I was deciding whether to put Gold Rush or Snakeskin Veil in my deck.
Oh my God, what is wrong
I
with you?
picked Snakeskin Veil, but
Okay,
at the
good.
time I was unsure, and that
Wow.
because
Why
in
didn't you ask me? I would have told you. I guess
because
we had to
would have
write
had
our
to yell
decks.
across the
Yeah, sorry, I forgot.
yeah.
So in that tournament, you had to write your deck list down and like finish it before you stood up and did stuff. So
Yeah.
you can't
I
get
would,
outside
and
help.
Zach and I were not super close to each
We
other,
were
so I
very
would have
far away from each other.
yeah, I would have had to yell across the hey
Yeah,
Zach, it's Snakeskin, but you would always say Snakeskin Veil is good, even
I
if it was
would.
not true.
No, I would tell you the truth, but I also needed you to be close to help me with my mana base. So it could have worked both ways.
Yeah, this is Mr. 4-0 had,
Bro.
feels like
My
he could have
my
had a
mana
better
base
mana
is like
base.
977, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you doing?
Like, okay, triple white spell with 7 planes. I love it.
All right, I thought it was double white. Come on. You got to give me a pass on that one. I would have done like whatever 986 if I knew that. But actually, I probably would have changed a lot of my deck if I knew that. But anyway,
Maybe it's a good thing you didn't.
who knows? Anyway, Gold Rush. Yeah, Gold Rush is bad.
Gold just sucks.
Yeah. There is a dream where you like, I don't know, have a bunch of treasures from like I don't know a Magda or something. It's that Magda and like Jolene and like some other stuff where you like have a huge attack. But besides that, like this is the very specific deck you need to have for this card to be
Yeah.
good. And even then, it doesn't do anything else but make your creature big. And most all of the removal is just destroy thing. Um,
Yeah. Um, I do have one more here, which
Give it
I'm
to me.
curious about your thoughts on, but I think this is a card that we both liked coming into the set, and now I think it's terrible. And it brings up an interesting talking point as well. So
Okay, I'm ready for it.
the card that too many people play and is bad in this format is Skullduggery. This this format has huge creatures. Skullduggery is way less effective in a format with really big creatures.
Hmm.
But also, this is something I've talked about a bit on the show before, but I do like to bring it up because people seem to um, not like they gravitate towards these things. Skullduggery is really good against players who are less familiar with the format, who are less sort of experienced.
Entrenched in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and they scale inversely with your opponent's skill level and familiarity with the format. So
Hmm.
the better the opponent you're playing, or the more experienced the opponent you're playing, the weaker Skullduggery is. I hate cards like that personally. We were talking off air about the Ambush Gigapede is sort of a similar effect. I think the Ambush Gigapede is like fine as a top end if you don't have anything else, but that's how I rate that card.
Hmm.
Um, Skullduggery is like it's only good when your opponent walks into it, and it's so easy to sniff out that if your opponent lets you have it in like higher skill rating games, they're letting you have it intentionally.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I think people can get like a couple of blowouts, maybe even in like lower tiers with it, and just be like, this card's great, and then never adjust their ratings of this card's actually not that good and is costing you more games than you think because your opponent's playing around it. Um, in this format, I don't even like Skullduggery at all.
Hmm.
In the previous one, it was actually pretty good because there were a lot of small creatures, so you could at the very least just pick off an X1.
Yeah.
But
So Skullduggery for everyone who doesn't know, because this card doesn't come up very often, and so it doesn't
yeah,
feel as ubiquitous as a lot of the other cards we talked about this evening. But just a single black for an instant until in turn target creature you control gets +1/+1, and target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1. The awkwardness of like you have to have your own creature for this to work. You can't just like kill a mercenary. You can't snipe a mercenary token or something
yeah,
without your own creature. It's kind of awkward. This was an original Ixalan, um, and I think it was really good when Rivals came around, Rivals of Ixalan, because that ended up being a bit faster, if I remember correctly. Some of the maybe I just played the pirate deck more that had a lot of like fast unblockable kind of creatures or like um, those types of things.
yeah.
But uh,
I
Skullduggery,
think Ixalan was fast and then Rivals slowed things down actually.
oh, I felt,
But
I guess in my mind it was the opposite. Maybe I'm wrong. Um,
it was a long time ago. I could also be
it,
wrong.
it, it
But
was. I remember the format right before that was that way. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But coming into this format, I remembered Skullduggery being very good, so I was on the same idea of like, okay, this card is pretty good. It's going to be one of the primo combat tricks. I'm going to spend a lot of time during limited matches thinking, oh, do they have skullduggery or not?
Right.
And it is we've said the word snakeskin veil probably about 50 times tonight. Like
Yeah.
that is the card that matters. This one doesn't at all.
Yeah.
And people aren't really playing it. You probably shouldn't play it. Um, I wonder if mercenary tokens mattered more if this would have been a bigger thing. But because the format's about
Maybe.
big creatures, like, yes,
Yeah.
in a single combat, this makes you go up one and them down one. So then you get plus two essentially. But
Right.
like, it just, that's not a good enough. And it's also just not, it's not really the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
It's a little too
It,
situational for your crime decks sometimes. Like, it just,
it can still get blowouts, right? It can still do the whole like, ooh, you had to block the perfect blocks. I'll give, this blocker -1/-1, and this attacker +1/+1, eat both your creatures. Like
mhm.
that can happen, but it's such a like that situation is a game you were probably winning anyways because your opponent was forced into
Bad
awkward
blocks and
blocks.
things. Yeah.
And so people tend to overrate spells that do that kind of thing. In this format, I just haven't really liked Skullduggery at all.
I think it's also just like the way that the creatures line up with each other in black compared to if you're attacking into green or white or something. Like, you're just not getting favorable. Like, none of the matchups really work perfectly where you get to
Yeah,
do that, where
and
you
it's
get
so
to
awkward on
eat two creatures.
defense. Like,
It's so strange. And a lot of times you're like attacking in and it's like, well, there's a, like we said, like a 9/9 elemental token, so
yeah,
that
you're just not winning that combat,
it's just
right?
not gonna do it, so yeah, I 100% agree. This was the biggest disappointment from this format so far.
Yeah,
That Skullduggery was just not everywhere like I thought it was going to be. Which is great. It's totally it's totally fine. There's not a problem with it. But I definitely thought this was going to be something I would think about a lot more, and I don't even think about it at all anymore. I just
yeah,
be like, they have a single black. Are they gonna really? They played Skullduggery in their deck? Okay, sure.
yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, that's probably good for us. But yeah, all in all, man.
There's also a ton of removal in the set, so even
Yeah.
if there were a ton of relevant X ones, which there just kind of isn't,
Hmm.
like you have so much removal anyways, you don't really need to play this on the off chance that you pick off like an Airings.
Yeah. Like, I think this deck would have almost been, or this draft format. Like, remember the one we had from Woe that was like the single black for like the target creature gets -1/-1, you make a rat token.
Yeah,
Like,
like the fungal infection sort of
kind of thing.
descendant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had that essentially, but it made a mercenary, that would have been probably
Ooh,
a lot better.
that'd be a pretty good card.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it like snipes off Airixes and stuff, but you also get it's
And
basically
mercenaries are like non-trivial tokens.
yeah, exactly. So it could have been the same type of thing as like Mourner's Surprise, where it's like it's a 1/1 that deals one damage when it
Yeah,
enters.
I kind of wish they did that now, like the fungal infection with mercenary token.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just would have been, a little bit too much. Skullduggery seems a little bit, it just fits better with the vibes.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably a flavor thing. Do we need more? I mean, who knows? Who knows? That might have beefed up the Outlaws aggro deck a little
right.
bit.
Like the Outlaws theme is weaker,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, we don't know, but anyway, we'll have to leave a couple things for our happy hour, which will be in the future. But
yeah,
anyway, Jeff, let's go to last call. Let's finish this up. Let's talk about this beer that we've been drinking, um, and rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So it's time to talk about the rating system. Sorry, I just like blanked there.
yeah.
Um, so if you don't feel sorry, I haven't done this in a
Bronze beers
week.
are bad,
Yeah,
Zach.
thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. That's what I'm trying to say. So if this has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently, it's just a fun way to rate beers. So that's what we say before we tell you that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You have to spit them out. You can't even speak of them. You can't think about them because you're so deep in
Yeah,
the beers, I guess. I don't know. Go ahead, Jeff.
yeah.
Take me
They're
away.
the
Save me.
silver beers are just like bad or really boring or just like not impactful. They're the
Mm.
hard bristle bandits of this of the beer world.
Hard Bristle Bandit is not a silver card. It's at least gold. Come on. Which gold beers are fine. You'll have them again, but they're fine.
I can tell you what, it's definitely not platinum, which would be solid beer, and you'll drink it again happily.
And diamond beers are exceptional. You like this a lot. You show them to your friends and you drink them often.
And Mythic are the best of the best. These are that Pegasus that I can't remember the name of because I've only gotten to play with it that one sweet, sweet time.
Where you had
But
three of them.
yeah,
Yeah. Shepherd of the Clouds.
that one.
Mhm. All right. This ESB we had, this British Amber. Um, I liked this, but it didn't really wow me. I think right off the bat, it just felt a little bit more bitter than I was actually thinking for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know if I was like expecting something else, but like I was good with it. I liked it, but I
I was
was
expecting that when JDCL makes like beers that are meant to be bitter, they're
mhm,
bitter, or at least that's been my experience with the ones I've tried.
yeah.
So I did kind of expect that and like that they came through. But I would agree that it wasn't, I don't think it was exceptional,
Hmm.
which is what I was kind of,
I think I
I
had
think
pretty
I
high
built it up in my
hopes.
mind. I'm like,
Hmm.
I love this brewery. I love this beer style. This is gonna blow me away. And then it was kind of just like, this is a well-made version of this style.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I also liked the the can looked really nice, and I enjoy all the artwork that they have, and I think that's really cool. Um,
Yeah, they used to have a totally different style, so that's still
oh,
like
throwing
wrapping
you
my head
off.
around that.
Yeah,
The old style, the best way to describe it is the old style was like old Magic card art kind of style versus the
that's
more like vibrant
clean.
and yeah, kind of thing they have going on these cans.
Yeah.
And so I have the same nostalgia for old Magic card art and
Hmm.
frame and border as I do for like how they
Used to.
used to
It's
design their labels, but it
it's
was definitely a
similar.
more mature kind of like um yeah, more artistic kind of look they used to have.
Yeah, intricate probably. It's probably similar to how I feel about New Belgium's old labels that are like, 20, 15, 20 years old
Right.
now. That
Yeah.
like, you know, were were really cool to me, and now they've just completely abandoned it. It's just so
Right.
different.
And I'm like, probably from a marketing perspective, this makes
It's
sense.
working
Like,
more, it's better, blah blah blah, but I don't like it as much.
yeah, so go back, please,
Yeah,
because I don't
please.
like it.
Or at least bring it back sometimes or something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it was good. I
Yeah. I think this was kind of pretty firmly platinum for me.
mhm.
I don't know if it was lower than that for you, but I think like the diamond that'd be a stretch if I was gonna put this in diamond,
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think it would be a stretch. I don't know if I feel like it's gold necessarily, but I'm closer to gold than you are. I'm still say platinum. Um,
I think it's one of those classic things where it's like if I'm going to pick up Judicial beer, not picking up this one. So
mhm.
technically it's like I won't drink this again, probably really.
Yeah,
But
this is
just
definitely.
in terms of like if you just think of a quality standpoint, it feels wrong for me to put it in gold.
Oh,
But
of course, yeah. Like I'm still going to their brewery, and most gold breweries or ones that I put a lot of the beers in gold, I don't want to go to. Definitely want to go
yeah.
to this one. So it's
Yeah, it's
just this
like I'm not drinking this again mostly because the rest of their stuff is
is
better,
so much
not
better.
necessarily because this one's like not good enough
It's like
to
if I'm
drink
gonna,
again.
yeah, exactly. It's like if I'm gonna pick up a six pack, this might not make it on the six pack, but it's not that it's it's just because everything else is so much better. Is what
Yeah.
I'm assuming. I haven't tried all the other stuff, but
At
the
least the
last one
other
we had.
two that we've tried or whatever that you've tried or
Mhm,
whatever are better.
exactly. So, but yeah, I also think that like maybe my range of ESBs is a lot lower than I would like it to be.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I only get to try them every so often. So it kind of creeps up on me and it's like, oh, this is a really great one. And then I taste it and I'm like, maybe I need to reevaluate the style in general. I just haven't tasted enough of them to be able to
It's also
rate
true,
it.
you know. Maybe
Yeah,
we need to like try a few more ESBs, then come back to this one. We'll really appreciate it.
that's
But
true. That's what
yeah,
I'm really thinking. I was like, I think I need to have a, because I have, so many IPAs in my palate, in my back pocket, that
yeah,
I've like tasted over the years.
right. And so you can immediately pick one out that's special.
And ESB is like
Nobody makes them, man.
two,
Nobody
three,
makes them. Yeah,
like there's so few of them that like I'm so excited when I get to taste them, but like it's harder for me to distinguish between them,
yeah.
because I haven't had enough of
Maybe
them.
it's just like this format, you know. The ESBs we think we like are, if we had enough ESBs, we would realize aren't as good. And then this one is
Mm,
the sleeper.
yeah, maybe that could totally be it.
But maybe not, and maybe it's just okay.
Who knows?
That's also a possibility as
We
well.
will find out in the future, possibly. Stay tuned for that. But with that, let's go to closing time. So, as always, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You can also find us on Arena itself with the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg, that is ZULBERG on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Twitch. I am Regular Zach, but Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is our Discord channel. We post deck lists, we post successful and sometimes unsuccessful draft decks. We post like, just chatting about different Magic stuff. It's a great place to go and hang out and, you know, learn a little or just have some fun.
Mhm.
And I'll be regular Jeff on that, and the link for that is down below in the show notes.
It is. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, leave us a review there. But the best thing you could do is tell your friends about us. If you like the show, that's how we get more listeners. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that anyone who drafts Hard Bristle Bandit in this format doesn't know what they're doing.
Good night. All right, that's fine.